A major chunk of our human life seems to be spent in evoking and manifesting the sympathetic stress response. The stress response is your sympathetic nervous system's assistance to you to help you survive at any cost. The deep-rooted klesha that Patanjali tells us called abhinivesha, the desire to survive at any cost, that manifests through the sympathetic stress response that enables us to face effectively the immediate threat that we have perceived as being a matter of life and death, a matter of survival of the fittest. The sympathetic limb of the autonomic nervous system is highly sympathetic to us. It keeps us alive. It makes sure that we will survive to face yet another day of the life ahead of us. So the moment we perceive something as being a threat to our survival, it kicks in and enables us to either fight or flee from the threat that we have perceived. So you perceive a threat, you either have to fight it and get rid of it, or you have to run away from it and get rid of it by running away. The third, of course, is a psychological response of freeze, which happens when students are asked questions in the viva voce by the professor. And when the professor says, what is this? They are like, well, that is the freeze response. The sympathetic nervous system induces the stress response that is coordinated by your hypothalamus and through two aspects. One aspect through the adrenal medulla producing adrenaline, noradrenaline, and the second one through the hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis producing cortisol. The rapid action and the slow action that enables us to survive. We will take a look at the stress response. But as people interested in yoga, in people who are practicing yoga as a way of life or as a therapy, we are more interested in the relaxation response. That is the counterbalance to the stress response. So if the stress response can be considered as the spanda, the activation, the excitement, the adrenaline rush, we also need to balance it with the relaxation response, the nishpanda, that deactivation and that relaxed state where you can replenish your sources. Your resources are burned up during the stress response and you need to rebuild them. You need to re-empower yourself, reinvigorate yourself, reinvent yourself. Well, that happens in the relaxation response. The greatest contribution yoga has to modern healthcare is in helping us induce this relaxation response, because it is only when we are relaxed that we can truly heal ourselves. And that is the goal, that we help the person heal themselves. We facilitate the inner healing power to manifest in its actuality. Let us now take a look at this stress response and, more importantly, the relaxation response. The term relaxation response was in recent times first coined by Herbert Benson, the medical doctor in USA. He defined it as a physical state of deep rest that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress, that is, the opposite of the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response, which is the stress response, can be contrasted with the relaxation response that can be defined as the rest, digest. So you have the stress response, that is fight or flight, and the relaxation response, that is rest and digest. And in the stress response, the breathing rate goes up, the blood pressure goes up, the heart rate goes up, the body metabolism goes up, blood sugar goes up, there is enhanced sensory awareness and increased adrenaline. Whereas in the relaxation response, all of these parameters, the breathing rate, blood pressure, heart rate, metabolism, blood sugar, adrenaline, and sensory awareness actually go down. At the same time, at the emotional, mental, psychological aspect of our existence, during the stress response, the thought processes, creativity, concentration, and the immune system and digestive system that are influenced by them, they all go down. Whereas in the relaxation response, the thought processes and creativity are enhanced with concentration, and the immune system and digestive system are actually brought into a state of beautiful, harmonious activity. These effects are primarily because of the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system produces the stress response, the pupils are enlarged, reduced flow of saliva, acceleration of the heartbeat, dilatation of the bronchi, inhibition of the peristalsis and secretion of the digestive tract, the release of more sugar into the bloodstream, secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline from the adrenal medulla, and inhibition of the bladder contraction. On the other hand, the effect of the relaxation response, mediated by the parasympathetic nervous system, primarily through the vagal nerve ultimately, it reduces the pupil to the normal size, stimulates the flow of saliva, slows the heartbeat, brings about bronchial constriction, peristalsis and the secretion of the digestive tract are stimulated along with the release of bile, and the bladder contraction occurs. So the sympathetic and the parasympathetic are basically working on opposite sides of the same coin, producing, if it's sympathetic dominant, the stress response, and if the parasympathetic nervous system is called into play, the relaxation response. This is because there is a constant homeostatic dynamic balance. In yoga, homeostasis is samatvam, that aim of the body, mind and spirit to be in a state of equilibrium in the face of any challenge. So homeostasis, which is a dynamic balance between the autonomic branches, the parasympathetic activity, which is relaxation, and the sympathetic, which is fight and flight, has that constant balance going on, fight or flight or rest and digest. And this very much depends on how we perceive the life around us. When we perceive it as stressful, the sympathetic nervous system switches on the stress response and we feel more stressed. Whereas if we are able to have a relaxed attitude, the parasympathetic nervous system switches on the relaxation response, making us feel more relaxed. This is where yoga comes in, because the attitudes of yoga, the techniques of yoga, especially the pranayama, the contemplation and the relaxation, they help us to find a balance in our life so that we are neither totally stressed or totally relaxed, that we are in a harmonious state of balance, that state of samatvam. At that point, through the relaxation response, what we can find is that we can go into what is called a wakeful, hypometabolic physiological state, where the brain waves, those patterns are slowed, there is improved skin health, improved vision, improved sleep and energy, the muscle tension is reduced, the heart rate is at a normal, lower, healthier rate, the blood pressure and the muscle blood lactate levels are at the lower normal threshold. There's an enhancement of the immune system, the digestive system, the libido, and the circulation and metabolism are harmonized. And all of these work together to improve the sense of well-being and our ability to communicate effectively and manage the great demands of our life. If we want to elicit the relaxation response, we could use the single pointed focus meditation, breath awareness, body scan, mindful awareness, the mindful movements that are there in yoga, guided imagery, the jnana yoga practices, and develop loving kindness in our life as a meditation itself. The awareness of the stress can also help us when we understand the physical, emotional, cognitive, relational and behavioral aspects of stress. This type of awareness can decrease the stress response. When we elicit the relaxation response, we can promote the relaxation response. And we also learn adaptive strategies, positive perspective. That is the Pratipaksha Bhavanam that Patanjali tells us about. Healthy lifestyle behaviors, the achar, vichar, ahar, vihar and vyavahar, the positive aspects of enhancing one's lifestyle through the diet, through the recreation, the rest, the behavior and the relationships. Again, swadhyaya, that makes us go in and we start to reappraise ourselves and learn coping with the stress. And of course, the vital aspect of yoga, that is developing social connectivity. We can start to see ourselves in everyone else. We start to see that the life force, the prana, the atman, the life itself, that lives in us is also living in everyone around us. Respecting others, loving others, having a sense of gratitude. So through the relaxation response elicitation, stress awareness and adaptive strategies, we can decrease the stress response, promote the relaxation response, and promote growth and enhancement, thus enhancing the resiliency. And this resiliency is the ability to manage life. We always think that there are people who don't fall down, but that's actually very false. Everybody falls down, but just some of us have better ability at getting back to our normal as soon as possible. So when we build resiliency, we are building our own ability. We are empowering ourselves to come back to normal whenever we are thrown off balance. And the three most important components of relaxation can be defined as attitude, activities, and techniques. And through the yogic psychological attitudes, the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam that Patanjali suggests, the aspects of Pratipaksha Bhavanam, activities that are in tune with the healthy achar, vichar, ahar, vihar and vyavahar, and the different techniques such as the pranayama, the contemplative techniques and the relaxative techniques of yoga. Well, through all of these, we as an individual can consciously make the choice to elicit the relaxation response. At that point, we start to take control of our own life. We start to live life on our own terms. And at that point, we start to become more of what we are. We start to manifest that inherent potential that is within us, and it starts to manifest in bountiful abundance, growing day by day, moment by moment, into that humane, divine nature of Sat Chit Anandam, the reality, the bliss, and the consciousness.